Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to another Kano Tryharding Modern. Today, we have an interesting Dredge list that recently 5-0'd where we'll be playing. A couple of things that I've noticed about it. I used to play Dredge a while back, way back when it was actually really powerful. Either, I think shortly before and shortly after Grave Troll got banned, because it was actually still really strong even though it didn't have Grave Troll. Basically due to Cathartic Reunion. But something I've noticed is this list does not max out on dredgers. We only have 2 Golgari Thugs, 4 Loams, and 4 Stinkweedums, and that's all of the dredge that we have in this deck. And I'm wondering if that's powerful enough, or like if Ox of Agoness or whatever is giving it enough consistency. Also, not maxing out on 2 Conflagrates. We don't have 4 Narcomoebas. Yeah, but last I played Dredge, I think Faithless Looting was still legal, so this is going to be interesting. Another thing worthy of note is we only have 1 Leyline of the Void in the sideboard. Not what I would have expected, really. I'm not sure what to make of that, but we're going to try taking this into a Modern League and see what happens. This will be the last constructed queue that I do for content prior to... Hang on. Did I queue up with the right deck? Yes. Yes, I did. Okay. This will be the last constructed queue that I do prior to Zendikar coming out. So tomorrow, or potentially even today, if I'm feeling real frisky, we'll have some pretty spicy jank content that I am looking forward to. Alright, so I think we start Shriekhorn. We could start Merchant of the Vale, pitch Stinkweedum. I'm going to keep this. We do have a Dredger. We have 2 Dredgers, actually. We're on the draw, so we have the potential to draw a second land, which is usually where Dredge wants to sit, because that lets them cast Loam, and then you have as many lands as you need for the rest of the game. But yeah, well, we'll see how I do. Opponent did mulligan down to 5, so hopefully we've got some power. So we start Stomping Ground into a Shriekhorn. Pass the turn. Okay. Opponent plays an island. So at their end step, we'll mill ourself. We mill Life from the Loam and a land. Untap. Mill ourself. Okay, so in response to Narcomoeba, I'm going to actually haggle Stinkweed Imp here. And the reason being is I want to dredge as deep as I can whenever I have a creature to return, because, let's see, always yes, always yield. The potential to have prized amalgams in the grave is worth it. You always want to dredge pretty much as deep as you can when you are returning something like that, because of how good prized amalgam is. Okay, so no second land drop for us here. We get back Silver Smote Ghoul, which gets back Prized Amalgam, and the nice thing about Prized Amalgam is Silver Smote Ghoul coming back on our end step means Prized Amalgam comes back on their end step. So we untap. I'm going to actually kind of decrease this a little bit. I know that some people got a little bit upset because of how much of the screen that's taking up. I'm just going to dredge here. Okay, so go to combat. Attack with everybody. Take our opponent to 4. And I'm going to cast Conflagrate... Actually, hang on. I'm going to cast Conflagrate X0 to make sure that it's in the grave. I'm not going to be dredging next turn. I want to actually try and draw land if possible. If my opponent has a remand, this gives them a draw, which is, I guess, the worst thing, but that's not really that bad. My opponent would have to have something very strong from their position. Like, they would have to have, like, main deck Fog and something else. Yeah, no, there's no way they beat that. So cool. We beat our opponent by only playing 1 land. So, opponent is blue-green. What kind of Grave Hate would a Simic or a Bant deck play? And do we even need to worry about it? If there's something like Sultai, they could have Leyline, Surgical... all kinds of nasty nonsense that we'd have to deal with. I'm thinking they're either Simic Titan or the Uropile deck. So if they're the Titan deck, they'll have things like Bojuka Bog, and if they're Uro, They're going to have things like Ashiok Dream Render, and both of those are relatively slow. I think we're fine, actually, just as we're set up right now. I don't think I'm going to make any adjustments until I see what my opponent is doing. There's a good chance that we can still do something fast enough, even if they have things like Relic or Tormod's Crypt. We'll be able to fight through one, probably. Alright. This hand is a lot slower. It does not have a Dredger, but we do have Mom Hug, or in this case, Dino Hug. Isn't that cute? Yeah, I'm gonna mulligan. Another one-lander. I do not want to keep a one-lander. I'm going to 4. Going to 3. You know what? Sure. This is like the bare minimum for Dredge hand. 2 lands loam. Now, there's a good chance that if my opponent has any grave hate whatsoever, we're done now. And we'll just be going on to game 3. But we're going to try and play it out as long as we can to see what our opponent is doing. I want to know what my opponent's sideboard is before going into game 3. If at all possible. I mean, if they play something like a Graph Digger's Cage, we're probably done. Alright, we get an Ox. Yeah, so we just go ahead and loam. Green, green. Getting this remanded would actually be quite awful. And it looks like they have a remand. And also it looks like my opponent is Sultai. Uh-huh. It's... Oh, Aether Gust. Yeah, we gotta put that on top. That feels really bad. That's actually, I think, a little bit worse than remand. No... Well, it's worse for us because we don't have the ability to immediately... We don't get another draw. But remand would mean our opponent would get another draw. So that could actually have been worse depending on what's in our opponent's hand and what's on top of our deck, etc., etc. So we're just going to try and feebly cast Loam again. Don't you do it. Don't you remand that. You just let that go to the grave, why don't you? Okay. Opponent instant speeds and Archmage Charm Divination mode. Which is fine, because at least we have a life from the Loam in the grave now. No! It's just... Oh, opponent has a Scavenging Ooze. Okay. Well, that's good to know. They have Skoos. And Field of the Ruin. Field of the Dead. I guess we can haggle an Ox. Yeah, nope. I'm just gonna go ahead and concede. Got a little unlucky. Didn't want to keep the opening hand. It probably would have been okay. Actually, no, it wouldn't have, because they would have Aether Gusted a Cathartic Reunion, and that we would have just been done. I don't think I want to bring in Thoughtseize. I think I actually need to bring in Claim, though. There's a good chance we get absolutely blasted by something if we don't do that. I'm trying to think of what is going to be the sideboard we need to make here versus Skoos. There's Lightning Axe, which would work, both as a discard outlet and as a way to mitigate their grave hate. We could swap, actually, Silver Smote Ghouls for Bloodghasts, because if we play a fetch land and they try and target one of our guys in the grave, we can get them back. I don't know that that's that big of a deal. And I think I'm mis-sideboarding here, but I don't actually know what the correct choice is. And I have no idea what I'm sideboarding out here, so I'm kind of figuring this out as I go. Which doesn't feel good, I'll be honest. So like in the old list, when I was in a position like this, usually I could cut like a Loam or a Thug or something, but we're so light on Dredgers, I just don't know. I think I'll cut a Shriekhorn, and I'll cut... You know what? I'm only going to bring in one Nature's Claim for a Shriekhorn. That is the most anemic sideboard I think I've ever done in a situation like this, but I literally do not know the matchup. So, let me know what you think in the comments below. How bad was this? We'll play first. Okay, if this actually should be amazing. So, we're going to keep. We are going to start by playing a Wooded Foothills and pass the turn. This is a turn 2 Cathartic Reunion discarding 2 Stinkweed Imps. That is one of the most powerful things Dredge can do. So the only way this goes wrong is if my opponent has Spell Pierce or Spell Snare. So, Stomping Ground tapped, untap, draw Loam, play Blood Crypt, Cathartic Reunion, discarding 2 Imps. No way! Are you just getting a Triome? Okay. Whew, I was gonna say... No! No! Oh, no! Oh, I was like, oh, I'm in the clear. Nope. Force of negation. Alright, we'll pass the turn. That does slow us down quite a bit. As long as our opponent cannot remove those Stinkweed Imps from the grave, right now, we can still dredge both of them next turn, because we have Forgotten Cave here. So, let's go ahead and draw Stinkweed Imp. And we hit a Creeping Chill. I'm going to go ahead and cycle Forgotten Caves as well, and dredge the other Stinkweed Imp in response. Okay, so we get a Narcomoeba, triggering Prized Amalgam, and we get to ping our opponent for 3 and gain 3 back. Okay, we don't have anything else we can play right now, but at our end step we get some stuff back. Man, if only that Cathartic Reunion would have resolved. Whew. Is this an Uro? It is an Uro. Interesting. Okay, I play a Misty. We untap. We definitely Dredge. Okay, so now we have 7 damage on board. We can Conflagrate for 5. We can Loam some lands back if we wanted to, but I think we just play the Ox. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, do I have to hit all of them, don't I? I can leave 1 in the grave. I'm going to leave Conflagrate in the grave. As far as I know, there's no 1-mana counter here that hits a creature. So Dredge Imp, and Dredge Loam. We'll get another Narcomoeba. We are missing out on a land drop here, which could be a big deal. And hit our opponent for 3, go to combat, attack our opponent for 7. They go down to 6, and we get back 2 ghouls. Opponent fetches up a basic forest. Veil of Summer, just a draw card, I think? I don't even think they drew a card. Okay, they play River of Tears, which, if they're losing, makes a lot of sense. River of Tears is a very sad land. I'm just going to cast an Uro. And then cast an Uro. They gain 3 life and play an island, but I think they're just dead. I mean, they could have an Echoing Decay. They don't have double black, so no Bile Blight. Alright, well no, actually they don't, because, okay, we will Dredge. Double Amalgam. Go to combat. Attack for lethal question mark. They block Silver Smote Ghoul. They Aether Gust the Ox. I'll put it on top, I guess. They take a lot. If this is... No, that's still lethal. I was gonna say, if this somehow turned into not lethal, we still had Conflagrate for 4. So that would mean that this would somehow have to not be lethal, and my opponent's last cards would have to be Force of Negation blue card. But, that's how you Dredge. You just, you dig deep, and if you reveal a Narcomoeba and you have the ability to dig deeper, you should, to try and get maximum Prized Amalgam return off of that. This newer version of Dredge plays a little bit differently, I've noticed. Just from that alone. Like, Dredge, like, at least when I played it, it's about going as deep as you can, as fast as you can. And, like, it still kind of has that vibe, but it does it in a different way. I don't know, it's a little hard to explain for me. Especially because I'm not very familiar with this version. Alright. Round 2, here we go. Okay, never mind. Alright. Round 2 for real. Yeah, I think on the draw this is fine. If we draw a land right off the bat, that's fantastic. Okay, opponent starts a Bauble. If this is the black-red Blitz aggro deck and not Death Shadow, we're actually going to have a little bit more trouble because I've seen them run Extirpate and Surgical, because I've run up against them in Hammer Time leagues off-screen. And it looks like it might be Death Shadow, though. I mean, if they take Merchant of the Veil, that's bad, but it's not end of the world. It's also the only thing they should reasonably take. Alright, so opponent draws 2 cards off the Mishra's Baubles, and we top deck it anyway. I am just going to haggle now. Dredge the Imp, pass the turn. So, it's a little early to start dredging. I kind of want to draw a second land if possible. It looks like my opponent has a big delve threat. I can't imagine why you would keep a hand with like 2 or 3 free cantrips and not have a delve threat. Unless they were like, we'll probably just draw into a threat. If you play Death Shadow, do not keep a hand without a threat. This has been a public service announcement. Cathartic Reunion, this is going to get 2 imps into the grave, even if this doesn't resolve because of the Force Spike. Yep. That's fine. When it finds and plays a Death Shadow, we untap. Now, we have 2 options. We can dredge the Imp and go deep, or we can dredge Loam and go shallow. Loam guarantees us a land. I think we just go deep, though, because we haven't really hit any payoffs except Silver Smote Ghoul. The problem is this Creeping Chill makes our opponent's Death Shadow much bigger. Definitely going to Ox here. So we get rid of the Shriekhorns, the Merchant, not the Ghoul, the Cathartic Reunions, the Fetch Lands, and Copperline Gorge. So with the Silver Smote Ghoul, it's very nice because it doesn't care if it was in your grave when you gained the life. It just cares that it's in your grave and you gained life at the end of turn. So we'll dredge Imp, Imp, and Thug. We will use Narcomoeba's ability. 2 prized amalgam triggers. We will drain our opponent, even though that's a little risky, because my opponent could have Temur Battle Rage. Opponent Thought Scours themselves. We get back a ton of stuff. And we can follow this up with a Conflagrate for reach. Opponent just cycled down to 4. If my opponent attacks, we double block. Okay, they concede. They can't beat it. Another key thing with Dredge that is still true in this version as it is in last version. Or I say last version, but of course the version that I played a long time ago. You absolutely must at all costs win game 1. Because you fold so hard to Grave Hate that if they have the right Grave Hate, you're going to lose game 2, and you might lose game 3. So you gotta be prepared for that. It looks like Death Shadow of the Grixis variety runs Cling to Dust and Ashiok Dreamrender as their Grave Hate of choice. So we can't super deal with Ashiok unless we're like Thought Seizing, which might be what we need to be doing. It's also kind of tempting to just run something like Rotting Regisar, but that doesn't match up very well with our opponent's stuff. Lightning Axe could be relevant if they get an early Angler, but I don't. So first, doing content, the number one thing that I realized, like after just playing a lot, because the first step to getting good is just playing consistently. Like I was playing League every day, and I actually dramatically improved, I noticed, just on my own perspective. The next step was learning to mulligan like effectively, and it varies by deck on when you should, right, and what you need. But then I learned to mulligan effectively. And after mulliganing effectively, the number one thing I needed to learn how to do is sideboard correctly. Not construct a sideboard, that's a different skill, but learn how to sideboard and swap cards correctly. And that comes with experience playing decks and understanding your matchups. So it kind of just falls under play a lot more, if you can. So here, I'm thinking about running Thoughtseize, but I think I'm just going to run it back. Ashiok is bad. But it is 3 mana, and they likely would have to tap out for that. So as long as they don't like mill critical, like all of the critical pieces at once, and we're not stuck with a handful of fetch lands or something, we're probably fine. I am going to keep this. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to play Copperline Gorge and play Conflagrate for 0. And we're going to end up dumping this entire hand to Conflagrate. It gives us a Dredger, it puts an Ox and a Silver Smote Ghoul in the grave. It's not the most amazing hand, but if we draw another Dredger or 2 across the next couple of turns, it does make the game a little bit better. Alright, we get a Merchant of the Veil. I don't think that changes what we're doing here. We're still going to just Conflagrate for 0. Now, if my opponent has Cling to Dust, which is likely, it's the Grave Hate that they run, I don't... Like, it's bad, but it's not the end of the world. Okay, we draw Cathartic Reunion. Oh my god, Porter, what did you eat? Oh, Jesus. Oh, man. Alright. Hopefully I'm not too muffled for a moment here. But yeah, we're still on the Cathartic Reunion plan. We're going to discard 1, 2, 3, 4 cards. This does turn on Death Shadow, which is something you have to be aware of when you're playing Death Shadow. You need to know that the critical life total is 12. Anytime they're under 12, they can then propagate a threat that will kill you very quickly. In certain circumstances, especially when you're dealing with a spell like Conflagrate, you need to understand that sometimes it may not be best to go for the maximum discard, but try to navigate that life total. Like my opponent had a fetch land and a shock land there, so basically any amount of damage that I was going to do was going to get them into the critical zone. But that may not always be the case. So, like if my opponent had just played, like their Singleton Basic that they usually run or something like that, they would have had, 3 more life total than they do right now, which would be 11. I might have not discarded the Narcomoeba then to keep them at 12 or 13, considering, because that might make the critical difference. If they can't land a Death Shadow for a turn and that's their only threat in hand, you effectively time warped. So that is a big deal in any Death Shadow matchup, and I hope that that helps some people, because that was a thing that I had to learn back when this deck first started becoming a deck. Death Shadow, that is. Alright, that's a big Death Shadow, and he's got a brother. So, Dredge Loam, hope to hit more Dredge. Alright. Oh, whoops. Oh, we don't have enough things to Cathartic Reunion. Oh, no. So what are the odds that my Death Shadow opponent can't lose any life, huh? And play a Stomping Ground tapped past the turn. They just have to cycle a Street Wraith. Actually, they just have to crack a fetch land and we're dead. So, alright, we'll go to game 3. I don't know why my Moto has started slowing down all of a sudden. I'm not doing anything too, like, strenuous in the background. Let me make sure I don't have any other random stuff open that might be slowing down or using disk resources or something like that. Okay. We didn't see any Grave Hate from them. That doesn't mean they don't have it. It just means they didn't have it that game. I think our best bet is to just be fast. So, oh yeah, I said Cling to Dust and Ashiok. Sorry. Those are the things we have to worry about. And Cling to Dust is good because it can interrupt what you're doing, but it's not like Surgical Extraction, you lose access to the card, bad for us. So, we got some Dredgers, we got some payoffs, but we have no way to get them into the grave, so we are going to mulligan. Just having the Shriekhorn, it might be good enough, actually. It's a little bit of a gamble. I'm going to put back the Narcomoeba because that's a card we do want in the deck, and we have a Bloodstained Mire, so we can shuffle the Narcomoeba in so that it might end up on, like, towards the top. I'm going to keep this, and we'll put back Narcomoeba. So, Bloodstained Mire, crack Bloodstained Mire, get Blood Crypt, untapped, play Shriekhorn. So now Narcomoeba is not on the bottom of the deck. It is theoretically somewhere in it, though. And we Shriekhorn, milling 2 lands immediately. Opponent cycles a Street Wraith to start, plays a Bloodstained Mire, fetches. If they shock and they Thoughtseize, we want all of these cards in the grave anyway. Yeah. There is a large portion of the Magic community, at least last I checked, that is like, maybe we shouldn't be doing Hand Hate versus Dredge. Well, there's the Narcomoeba. If you and the Ox had been swapped places, it would have been a lot better for us. We do not have enough cards in the graveyard to escape the Ox. I was trying to remember the terminology, even though it's right there in tiny text at the bottom of my screen. So opponent starts Mishra's Bauble. They look at the top of their own deck, so I'm wondering if they're deciding to... Okay, so they probably don't have a land, and they're deciding whether to Thought Scour themselves or to Thought Scour us. If you play Death Shadow, except for, like, really extreme edge cases, you always Thought Scour yourself. Do not Thought Scour your opponent. But I know what you're thinking. I know what most people think. It's like, but Kano, I have to draw lands. And if I mill lands, I'm going to feel real bad about it. That's true. But your deck is designed with the consistency in mind to mill itself. You want more cards in the grave for Delve. You want more cards in the grave for Snapcaster. There are a ton of reasons you need to be milling yourself over your opponent. Now, if you have things like Surgical and you're worried about a particular combo piece, if you're running that sort of tech, absolutely mill your opponent if that's what it takes to win. Just realize, what you're doing and when you're doing it. Okay. Now we're going to get an Ox, which means we have a lot of shenanigans coming up here. I have to exile 3 more. That means I'm going to get rid of a Ghoul and an Imp. Wait, what? Can I pop this out so I can actually see what I hate this part of the interface. It's so garbage. Okay, so we don't have a... Okay, we're going to get rid of the other Ghoul then. We want the Amalgam because it's coming back at end of turn. And we need one of the Stinkweed Imps in the grave. It's a little awkward, but this pretty much has to be the play. Okay, pop that back in because we don't need that. Pitch our hand. Dredge Imp, and Dredge Imp. Get our opponent with the Creeping Chill, and pass the turn. Getting back 9 more power on the board. Oh, no. 3 more of it will be at our opponent's end step. Unless they, of course, have Cling to Dust or Ashiok. I think if they just play Ashiok, though, they're going to lose. Opponent is in a really tough spot. Grave Hate right now would be bad because we have... the way that we gain reach is this Conflagrate that's in the grave right now. Collective Brutality, killing a Silver Smote Ghoul and draining us, then Nile Spellbomb. Okay, so that ended up being pretty bad. This is not an unlike... Alright, so we're going to get back Amalgam tapped, and then our opponent exiles the grave? I think they clicked through the trigger there. I don't think that was accurate. Yeah, opponent said oops. Alright, well, we currently don't have a grave. Hey! Oof. I like this. Oh, actually, we don't have anything with haste. Yeah, we're going to attack first. So go to combat. Attack first. They're not going to haste in anything big enough to kill us. Okay, they kill an Amalgam. They go to 4. And unless they have Force of Negation, this should be pretty devastating. Yeah, the Creeping Chill. If we can get the second Creeping Chill, they lose on the spot. Opponent did not want to see it through. Alright, well, we're 2-0. I'll see you guys in round 3. Only one person so far is trophied. Just noticing that. Alright, round 3. Yeah, I think this is good. The double Narcomoeba is a little bit awkward, but we do have a Dredger, we can haggle, and we have Shriekhorn. So, interesting choice we have to make here of whether or not to start with the haggle or start with the Shriekhorn, and I think the Shriekhorn is the way to go. So, fetch Stomping Ground, play Shriekhorn, pass the turn. I really do not know what Moto is struggling about. I'm only using like 20% of my available processing power on this computer, so my computer should not be chugging like this. Okay, so we mill ourselves, we untap, mill ourselves, okay, haggle, discard Stinky, dredge Stinky, dredge again. We have nothing else we can cast right now, so play City of Brass, pass the turn. Got a little unlucky on the dredge there. My opponent likely will have to play something. Okay, maybe not. If they're just straight blue-white control, they might be ultra slow. I should have milled myself with Shriekhorn there, but I did not. I don't want to cast the Ox into open mana, because we're probably only going to get to do that once. So I'm going to play the Merchant of the Veil from the Exile Zone. Archmage's Charm, targeting themselves. Okay. Oh, random magic factoid. Because I was thinking about Archmage's Charm. It only has one mode that targets players. So if you target a player with it, if you announce that you're targeting a player with it, I'm going to mill myself in response in case we hit our Singleton Bloodghast. We did not. Oh, we have no basic lands in the deck. That's interesting. I didn't actually know that. Or we might have... No, we have a mountain. We have a couple of mountains that are just both in the grave right now. But it's the factoid that I have is not about Archmage's Charm. It's about Esper Charm. Esper Charm has a mode that says draw 2 cards, and then it has a mode that says target player discards 2 cards. So if you, in a tournament, say Esper Charm targeting myself, you just cast Mind Rot targeting yourself. You have to be very explicit with your language if you play with Esper Charm. Just a little fun magic factoid there. Yeah, I think we go Ox. Opponent likely has some kind of a counterspell. I can get rid of the fetch lands, the Cathartic Reunions, and Shriekhorn. Oh, one more. One of the mountains, then. Considering my opponent is a blue control deck, they probably have a counterspell of some kind available. Yep. Alright, pass the turn. Okay, opponent plays a Field of Ruin, which they may just activate, realizing that we did not, what do you call it? Find a land. So they take out our City of Brass, we have no lands to search, they get an island, and they pass. I am going to dredge Loam here, and we're going to try casting it. If this resolves, we can play a land, and that will reanimate Bloodghast and both prized amalgams. Opponent has a Force of Negation, which is extra bad because it exiles life from the Loam. Once again, I am sorry about the slowdown, because the game should not be running this much slower. I'm wondering if it's because of the new Zendikar patch. Generally, when they release patches on to the public, the game slows down quite a lot. The first couple days, it's just like the Moto curse. Anyway, opponent Windmill slams Jace and Brainstorms. I think I might title this video something like highly cerebral content, because the deck is not necessarily well, you know what I mean. Okay, we're going to play a land, we're going to get back a Bloodghast, stack a whole bunch of prized amalgam triggers. Oh, they also changed the selection boxes, I just realized this. And then I think we're going to try and get back the Ox again. It's either that or We can Conflagrate and kill Jace. We'd also just hit our opponent for like 6. I think the Ox is a little bit better. We have to take out like any non-immediate action spell here, which includes the other Ox, and 1 Silver Smote Ghoul, which kind of sucks to lose, but the Ox should theoretically get us a lot further. Okay, so we discard Dredge Stinky, and do we go the full Stinkweed Imp? I think we do. Only 1 Creeping Chill and 1 Narcomoeba. And I think the only way this goes wrong is if my opponent has a Terminus or a Supreme Verdict. And Supreme Verdict would not actually be that bad, it would just delay us a turn. So pass the turn. I really hope there's a fetchable land left in the deck. Okay, Moto's struggling really hard with this. Cool. We're not cracking the fetch, 1, because I'm scared that I may have dredged all of my lands out, and 2, because there's a decent chance that if I haven't and my opponent Supreme Verdicts, we can fetch after that resolves, get back Bloodghast, and then get back all of our prized amalgams at their end step and kill them anyway. Alright, opponent found a Flooded Strand. They fetch. They're likely getting a white source so that they have 2 white mana for a Wrath. The fact that they're playing Jace means that this could be a Terminus. It is just a Supreme Verdict. So now this comes down to whether or not we have a fetchable land left in our deck. And we're going to do this. We have to do it before end step, so end of combat is as good as any. We have 1 fetchable land left, which means we get to use Bloodghast's ability. We get all of our prized amalgams back at the end step. Nice. Okay. Untap. I am going to Dredge Loam, and Creeping Chill is lethal if my opponent cannot deal with these creatures, that is. So go to combat, attack everything at our opponent. I'm going to Snapcaster for an Opt. So they can block a prized amalgam, and they'll go to 1. But my opponent has to have Force of Negation to stop the lethal Conflagrate, which they only have 3 cards in hand, but they are getting a Scry here. Let's see if they leave it on top. I'll put 1 card on the bottom. So if they got it, they had to dig for it. Okay, we take our opponent to 1. We're going to Loam. We're going to get Mine, Forgotten Cave, and a Wooded Foothills. Green, green. We're doing this first to make Force of Negation worse, because we still get value out of this, even if they force. And so we're just going to Conflagrate our opponent for 1. I don't think they can gain life at instant speed with no mana. Discarding a Stinkweed Imp. Get him with the old Lava Dart. Wow, they had it. Nice. Alright. Well, our opponent has to find another Wrath. They have a number of draws at it. And opponent concedes after taking a look at what they brainstorm with Jace. Alright, sorry about that. So we are going to... Let me look up what Blue-White Control currently runs as Grave Hate to inform my decision. I always use MTG Goldfish for times like this. So Azorius Control currently runs... It looks like they have Celestial Purge, Ashiok, and other than that, they just have Terminus and Path. So if my opponent has Terminus, we are probably 100% done. I think that means I bring in Thoughtseizes. And the question is, what do I bring out for Thoughtseize? So the problem with a deck like Dredge is it's a finely tuned machine, and you can't just do ham-fisted things like what I'm doing. I'm going to cut a Shriekhorn, I'm going to cut a Narcomoeba, and I'm going to cut a Cathartic Reunion. Cathartic Reunion does have a really high upside, but we're on the draw, and our opponent will have 2 mana, which almost certainly means they will have a counterspell for Cathartic Reunion, which makes it significantly worse. Because then we would discard 2 cards we want in the grave, and our opponent could untap and play an Ashiok. So I think the timing on it is going to be a little questionable. Hopefully we can get them with a good Thoughtseize. Alright, no lands means this hand is atrocious. It's a little better, but not much. I think I've got to keep, though. It's pretty bad to not have green mana for Loam. Our opponent also mulliganed to 6. I'm wondering if we should go to 5. I think we just have to try and rely on the strength of Cathartic Reunion. We can follow it up with Forgotten Cave to cycle and dig a little bit deeper. Opponent starts tapped Glacial Fortress. We will start tapped Blood Crypt. So Creeping Chill in hand is also really bad. I probably should have put Creeping Chill back in the deck, honestly, not the other Blood Crypt like I did. Alright, we get a Bloodstained Mire, which is good, because that's green mana. So fetch, Shock Stomping Ground, also thin our deck slightly. Let's go red, Cathartic Reunion, discarding Thug and Ghoul. It's possible I should have kept Ghoul in hand. Okay, opponent Aether Gusts. Do I want to draw a Cathartic Reunion? I think the answer is no. So to the bottom it goes. Opponent does only have 4 cards in hand, but if they play land Ashiok, this is probably game over unless we get really lucky. Okay, we do get a Dredge out of Thug here, and a Bloodghast. No further dredging though, so I think we play a Mountain. I am going to reanimate Bloodghast. We only have the 1, and I'm going to cast Thug. My opponent should not have any Dissipate variants that hit creatures. So if they counter this, that's fine. If they path it, that's a little bit fine. This is a pretty anemic Dredge draw right now, though. Loam is not bad. So go to combat, attack for 3, hit our opponent to 17, and we're going to go ahead and try and Loam. There's a decent chance they just like hard cast Force of Negation. Man, Moto. I think I'm going to have to restart the client after this. I'm sorry. This is really bad. I'm going to cycle Caves on my opponent's end step. It might be better to hold it in hand to try and get a Dredger into the grave first, but we also need to just draw action at this point. Yeah, Ashiok's pretty bad. Even if we attack him all out, watch my opponent just hit like 4 amalgams. They mill Merchant of the Veil, Creeping Chill, City of Brass, and Shriekhorn. Okay, we can't do anything with the Creeping Chill they milled, even though the triggered ability pops up. I am going to cycle Forgotten Cave. We get a Stinkweed Imp. Untap. We draw Mountain. So, play Mountain. Go to combat. We can start attacking our opponent or hit Ashiok, and I think we have to hit Ashiok. Okay. Hardcast Stinkweed Imp. Watch my opponent sack Ashiok to mill, and then play another Ashiok. Just be like, oh, Kano, you thought you were winning this game, or even standing a chance. They're gonna make me attack him. We draw Shriekhorn, go to combat. Everybody smack the Dream Render. This is Path, Snap Path. Okay, Cryptic Command, bounce Ashiok. Wow. Moto is colossally slow right now. It's horrible. Well, I mean, if my opponent just spends their, I don't know why I said her, spends their turn replaying Ashiok and nothing else, we might still have a chance, depending on what they mill. Okay, they play Colonnade. If they play Ashiok, they'll have Path mana. They're not going to play Ashiok. Interesting. They want me to mill first before they do, so I guess we have to oblige. Draw the Imp. We mill a Narcomoeba. Go to combat. Attack with all creatures. It's possible that leaving the Narcomoeba in the grave was the correct call. Because we could have flashbacked Conflagrate for 2 and then just gotten 3 new cards and had no cards in grave. But since I did not do that, we're going to play Stinkweed Imp, hopefully not into a Terminus. I mean, Terminus wouldn't be the end of the world because we have Stinkweed Imp, and we would be milling ourselves for another 2. So I think my opponent is going to try to cast Ashiok next turn. The Archmage's Charm drawing 2 cards. Interesting. Maybe they were trying to hit Terminus on our turn. So then they could land Ashiok 2. And that would have been extra nasty. Okay, opponent plays a Field of Ruin. Hitting our black mana would be more important than our green mana at this point. Moto is just making noises and not doing anything right now. And this is like a fresh instance. I opened it up for this league. Oh, we milled Thoughtseize, Silversmote Ghoul, Merchant of the Veil, and a Bloodstained Mire. Alright, I didn't mill myself, but, you know, whatever. Go to combat. Everybody hit my opponent. Opponent has Snapcaster, but nothing they can target that they can cast. Okay. They block the Bloodghast. They take 4 and go to 4. Okay. We're going to mill ourselves and try and mill a land. Sweet. Okay, we're going to try and loam 2 lands. Play the Gorge and get back the Bloodghast. I'm doing this now so that our opponent doesn't just mill us with Ashiok and we lose our Bloodghast. Also trying to force our opponent to cast more expensive spells or tap out of out of their small amounts of mana and whatnot so that we can maybe cast a Creeping Chill. Alright, our opponent plays a Jace and Brainstorms. So if they put back a Terminus and they have an Opt in hand, or like... Yeah, I think it's Opt, because that'd be the only other instant speed card draw they have. We are going to be in trouble. We untap. Draw Cathartic Reunion. Go to combat. Attack our opponent. Opt Terminus or bust. Opponent says, well, apparently my deck couldn't beat the Dirtle beats this game. GG's. I don't know what that means. Can anyone enlighten my tiny brain that I don't know what my opponent was saying, but we're 3-0. I'm going to stop the recording here, restart Moto, and then maybe Moto won't choke and die as I try and play the rest of this league. Alrighty, we're back from the Moto restart. Hopefully its massive memory leaks have granted us a minor reprieve, and we're in round 4. This hand is almost good. If this hand had a Dredger, it'd be nuts. Like, if this Creeping Chill was a Stinkweed Imp, this hand would be like the ideal Dredge hand. We're gonna go to 6. Shriekhorn is a little better. I'm gonna keep, and I'm gonna put back a Creeping Chill. And we will start Copperline Gorge Shriekhorn. Pass the turn. Is this the mirror match or is it Ponza? It's Ponza! Alright. Well, we mill Loam. Mill again. We mill Merchant of the Veil Ox. So let's go ahead and Dredge Loam. Hitting Thug, Imp, and another Ox. So play Wooded Foothills. Crack Wooded Foothills. Get a Blood Crypt. Untapped. Cast Loam. Picking up Wooded Foothills, and pass the turn. So even if my opponent has land destruction, or a Blood Moon this turn, they're going to be pretty sad. The best thing they could have, I think, would be a Klothys, but that wouldn't do anything until their turn, and we would have already emptied the grave out of everything we needed. Blood Moon. Yeah, sure, dude. Red mana is all I need. Go ahead and Dredge Stinky. Drain our opponent. Play Bloodstained Mire, play Ox, getting rid of Stomping Ground, Wooded Foothills, Merchant of the Veil, second Ox, Shriekhorn, and I guess the Loams. I hate this interface so much. So we gotta pick one more card. I guess we take the Stinkweed Imp, or no, the Thug. Okay, always yield. Pitch our whole hand. Dredge. Dredge. Dredge! Sorry. Go ahead and drain our opponent for a lot more, put a lot more stuff on the battlefield. Cool. And we have another Ox for next turn, along with a ton of dudes. So the only way this goes wrong is if my opponent is main decking Anger of the Gods, in which case we lose on the spot. Bloodbraid. Cascades into Klothys, which is good, but I don't think it's good enough. Yeah, nope, opponent's dead. Yeah, nice. Okay, so... Post-sideboarding, our opponent is playing Anger of the Gods. This is a matchup where we need Thoughtseize in the deck. Absolutely 100% lootly. So, we need to get rid of... I'm trying to think here. Loam is not as good. I'm going to cut a Loam, cut a Shriekhorn, and maybe we should bring in Regisars, too. They're big enough that their body should be relevant. Lightning Axe could matter, so could Nature's Claim. This is a little bit tough. Regisar is just interesting as it's a creature that can survive Anger, but at the same time we have no basic mountains, so if our opponent plays Blood Moon again, we're stuck on mono red. I'm gonna cut a... I don't know what to cut. I gotta cut something. Cut a Narcomoeba. Try it like this. So it's gonna come down to how fast is our hand, and does our opponent have Anger? That's basically it. Hand is too slow. We're going to mulligan. This hand is significantly better. We have turn 1 Thoughtseize. Turn 2 we can cast Conflagrate for 0. Which one of these cards do I want in the deck the most? Probably Silver Smote Ghoul. Okay, opponent starts Forest. Arbor Elf. Only have 4 cards in hand. So we're going to fetch up a Blood Crypt and Thoughtseize. Because if my opponent casts a Blood Moon next turn... Grafdigger's Cage. Say goodbye. Glad we thought seized. Otherwise, we'd be in huge trouble. Okay, opponent Utopia Sprawls on red. Untaps 2 mana. Arbor Elf. They're going to bolt too. I mean, you might as well use the mana, right? No? Okay. Actually, at my upkeep, I should have merchanted there and discarded Stinkweed Imp. That was a mistake. It could actually be a really costly mistake. I guess we'll see. I'm going to do it now. Dredge Stinky. Yeah, no, that was way out of order. I'm so sorry. We are going to cast Conflagrate for 0. Pass the turn. And next turn, Conflagrate will kill all of their mana dorks. So it looks like they're casting a Bloodbraid. They hit another Utopia Sprawl, so we're not going to really stem their mana at all. And then get in for 4 if they want. They only get in for 3. Untap their mana and play Bone Crusher Giant. We untap. We draw Gemstone Mine. So the first thing we do is we Conflagrate 1, 2, 3. Pay red, discard, discard, discard. Kill their mana dorks. Play Bloodghast. Get back Amalgam, pass the turn. I really hope I didn't throw this game, because we may not get another chance in game 3. Opponent has a Lightning Bolt that they can cast if they want. They attack, we can't block, we take 7 and go to 5. Dredge Stinkweed Imp. We get back Narcomoeba. We get back an Amalgam tapped. So, cast Stinky, go to combat, and attack our opponent for 2. Narcomoeba, the other 3 creatures we have can block, which is why we're holding them back. Our opponent does have a Bolt, and we need 2 blockers. Okay? We get back Prized Amalgam tapped. We really need to dredge a Creeping Chill here. Opponent bolts our face. Now, if they draw a Bolt or Stomp, we're dead. They should be drawing lands pretty soon because they... Never mind. I forget. My opponent has red mana, and I have enough life to lose. So, alright, going into game 3, knowing what we know now that our opponent's Grave Hate of choice is probably Anger of the Gods and Grafdigger's Cage, we need these Nature's Claims, and we need this Blast Zone. We could take out Thoughtseizes for that if we want to be reactive, but we will be on the play, so they're actually going to be quite good. I think we have to cut down on them, though, down to like 1. And I'm going to drop a basic Mountain, and we'll run it back. If we have a fast opener, though, our opponent does not stand a chance. And had I not punted, I probably could have just won that game. Okay, double Creeping Chill on our opener is pretty bad. I'm going to mulligan. This, however, is really good. We're going to keep. I'm going to put back Bloodstained Mire. We probably don't need black mana. So, if my opponent starts Grafdigger's Cage, that's a big problem. But, if they don't, we can basically dredge, hopefully our entire deck, hitting like any other dredger off of Stinkweed. It's possible I should have milled myself on my turn in case I hit Narcomoeba Prized Amalgam. Then we would at least have it if this is a Grafdigger's Cage. Survey says... Okay, didn't matter. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to discard Stinkweed Imp Treecorn, and we are not going to dredge. Okay? Pass the turn. We have to try and play a slower game, not dredging, until we can get a Nature's Claim. So, loan back some lands. Bloodstained Mire, pass the turn. If we get to the point where we have to start casting our dredge threats, we are in a bad way. But it looks like our opponent is stuck on lands, which is good news for us at the very least. So fetch up a Blood Crypt, untapped, haggle. We're going to discard Copperline Gorge. We're not going to dredge. Get a Cathartic Reunion, we untap. No dredge. Stinkweed Imp. So play Blood Crypt, untapped. Red, red. No, actually, should do this. I guess it doesn't matter. Cathartic Reunion, discarding Wooded Foothills and Stinkweed Imp. No dredges. Alright. Cathartic Reunion again. Discard Wooded Foothills and Ox. No dredges. Okay, pass the turn. Still no Nature's Claim. Could you imagine if I had been dredging this entire time because my opponent didn't start turn 1 Grafdigger's Cage? Where would we be at and what would we be doing? Besides being in round 5 with another victory under our belt? Okay. So play Bloodstained Mire, crack Bloodstained Mire, get a Stomping Ground tapped, and we're going to play out a Bloodghast. Pass the turn. I probably should have played out Merchant of the Veil, but I just saw that. I forgot that it's up there and we can play it, because it's not where I can usually see it. And why can't this go over the chat box like the companion zone and everything else? It's really annoying. Moto's UI design is inconsistent. My opponent kept a hand with Grafdigger's Cage and no other playables, apparently. Okay. Well, at least that was bait for the bolt, I guess. Okay, Silver Smote Ghoul we can cast. This cannot enter the battlefield. I'm going to try and just discard cards that we don't need to draw. Try and draw our Nature's Claim. Okay, now our opponent can start casting cards. So if this is a Clothis, we need a Nature's Claim in the next 2 draws. Yep, it is. Okay. No Dredge. Discard Ghoul. No Dredge. Oh, man. Yeah, we're going to try and discard again. Discarding Ghoul. Okay. Attack our opponent for 2. We've gone through half the deck and haven't seen a 2 of yet. So opponent here probably takes out Bloodghast, as that is our easiest way. It's either Bloodghast or Ox they get rid of. If we could just top deck a Nature's Claim, or we could get it off of... We can no longer win the game. Because of Blood Moon. We have no way to have green mana. Yeah, we can't... Dredging doesn't really do anything either. Prized Amalgam. So cast Merchant. We can't escape the Ox. I'm going to mill my opponent. And then we're going to beat down with Bad Bear. Or a Bad Grey Ogre, question mark? No, Grey Ogre is a 3-mana 2/2. Yeah, I punted game 2, and this is our payment for it. Opponent is adding additional mana. Okay. Bloodbraid. Bloodbraid wheels into Scavenging Ooze. You got it, opponent. Man, we had like so many turns and so many draws, and we just didn't see it. Like, if I was anybody else and I was doing, or like, my advice is if anyone else has a game like that, where you have 2 answers in the deck, and you just can't have your opponent play Grafdigger's Cage and Blood Moon, and you draw 31 cards and don't find what you need, variance was just not on your side. You did what you needed to do, and it's nothing to be upset about. Because, like, what are you going to do? And if I had dredged any of those times, the odds that I was just going to mill a Nature's Claim is extremely high, because it's unlucky, and I am a lightning rod for bad luck sometimes. So just, you know, keep drawing, and try and take round 5 and go 4-1. And don't punt like I did in game 2, because then you don't get into situations like that. Like, I really have no right to be salty about that, so I'm not going to be. Alright, round 5, here we go. Alright, we'll play first. This is a little bit slow, but it is okay. I'm going to try and get Dredger and Enabler like this, I guess. Yeah, we'll keep. And I'm going to put back Bloodghast. So start Scalding Tarn, fetch, and shock Blood Moon. Gonna make my opponent think I am Grixis Death Shadow. That's why it's a Scalding Tarn and not an Arid Mesa. That, and I opened this out of a treasure chest, and I feel great about it. Alright. I'm gonna go haggling. We will discard a life from the loam. Dredge loam. Okay. Untap. No dredge, because we don't have any. Play Bloodstain Mire. Moto. Okay. Fetch a Stomping Ground. I feel like deck thinning matters here, so that's why I'm doing it. Loam back our lands, and pass the turn. It's Eldrazi-tron. Interesting. Dredge loam. We get a Creeping Chill, which is good. So we drain our opponent, play Scalding Tarn, fetch with Scalding Tarn, get a Stomping Ground tapped, and then loam back some more lands. Pass the turn, get back a bunch of bodies at the end step. We'll get a Prized Amalgam back at their end step. Okay, opponent has 5 mana, so now they can play Reality Smasher, which is kind of what I suspect is happening. No, it's going to be a Thought-Knot Seer. So in this case, they should probably take the Ox. If I had to imagine a likely outcome, that's exactly what happens. And then play a map. So out of the sideboard, we're going to have to watch out for probably Tormod's Crypt, Grafdigger's Cage, and Ensnaring Bridge. Alright, well, we untap, we draw Loam, then shock Blood Crypt, cast Loam, and then go to combat, attack with everybody. Opponent will likely block and block. Okay. So sack Ghoul, Dredge Loam. We found an Ox. We kill Matter Reshaper. Our opponent reveals Ugin the Ineffable. They play Karn. They wish with Karn. And they get Tormod's Crypt. Crypt here actually hurts a ton. That takes out like all of our action. Okay, we untap. We draw Forgotten Cave. So Wooded Foothills, crack it. Get a mountain. Loam, pick up Foothills. Cycle a Forgotten Cave. Dredge Loam. Get a Creeping Chill and a Silver Smote Ghoul. And a Bloodghast. Then we Loam back Forgotten Cave. Pass the turn. No attacks. Back our other Ghoul. Opponent's going to crack Expedition Map using their Eldrazi Temples. Okay, so they get the last Tron piece. Playing Ugin the Ineffable here. Okay, they make a bear. And they wish for Relic of Progenitus. And they exile everything. Okay, it's pretty annoying. We draw Bloodstained Mire. Play Wooded Foothills. Crack Wooded Foothills. Get a mountain. Loam. Pick up Wooded Foothills. Cycle Forgotten Cave. Pick up Loam. Loam. Pick up Forgotten Cave. I'm fighting hard here. Oops. Cycle Forgotten Cave. Dredge Loam. Alright. Pass the turn. Discard Loam to hand size. Pass. See what our opponent does here. They have to tick up Karn this time around, but they have a ridiculous amount of mana. So our opponent makes a bear, plays a Matter Reshaper, plays a Reality Smasher, and attacks us for 7. No blocks. Okay, we untap. Dredge Stinkweed Imp. We get a Narcomoeba. We have no fetchable lands, I think, left in the deck. So we're just going to play Copperline Gorge, and then I'm going to dump all of our hand and try and keep, I guess, a Thug in the grave. I mean, we could just hit like all of our Creeping Chills, right? No, there's 2 in the exile zone. So drop our whole hand. Dredge Stinky, Dredge Thug, and Dredge Stinky. We get 2 Creeping Chills, get an Narcomoeba, and there's a Conflagrate. So we can drain our opponent to 5. Problem is, I should have kept back 1 life from the Loam instead of the Thug. I don't know if that still would have gotten us all the way to the second Dredger or not. Oh, actually, I can crack Ghoul and get to 4? Does that do anything? I don't think so. I think we just play Imp and pass. So if my opponent cracks Karn to wish for Bridge, we can kill them with Conflagrate. If they crack Karn to get Grave Hate, that's bad, but I think we can still kill them. I don't know, my brain's not working right now as well as it should. Did a lot of thinking. Never mind, all is dust. Yep, should have kept the Loam, because that would have killed them. Didn't think about it. Okay, versus Eldrazi Tron. Nature's Claim, Thoughtseize, and Shenanigans in. We're going to drop Shriekhorn, Narcomoeba, Bloodghast. This is kind of tough. Maybe we don't need all the Thoughtseizes. I'll bring in like a Thoughtseize. I'm going to go down to 1 Narcomoeba. It's probably wrong, but it's also possible I should bring in Blast Zone here. Actually, I definitely should have brought in Blast Zone, because that's a good way to answer Bridge. Okay, we'll play first. We got Shenanigans Cathartic Reunion, but that's not really enough to start a bunch of dredging or anything. I'm going to mulligan and hope for something better. This may qualify. So I'm going to keep this. I'm going to put back Creeping Chill, and I'm going to Merchant of the Veil on my opponent's turn. Actually, no. But I am going to keep this. I'm going to put back Creeping Chill. That part is correct. Play Bloodstained Mire. So we either Merchant of the Veil, discarding Thug, and probably not dredging. The only way that this goes wrong is if my opponent has like a turn one Grave Hate is just about how this goes wrong, but they usually stick it in the sideboard and keep it there to nab with Karn. Okay, opponent starts Power Plant. So pass to their end step, Shriekhorn, target ourself. We mill Ox, Cathartic. Untap, Shriekhorn, target ourself. We mill Stinkweed Imp, Merchant. Okay, we're just going to dredge Stinkweed Imp here. You should not usually dredge on one land, as far as I remember. But there was a really high chance of hitting a Creeping Chill there, which would have really decimated our opponent, I think. The opponent plays an Eldrazi Temple into a Maze Mine Tome. Dredge Thug. Okay. I think I'm about ready to just start drawing naturally and trying to hit a land. Opponent scries, leaving it on top. They play an Urza's Mine. So we untap. No dredge. Got him. Crackwooded Foothills. Get a Blood Crypt. And Oxum. Exiling Merchant, Shriekhorn, Merchant, Cathartic as the least relevant spells first. And then some fetch lands. This should get us somewhere. Okay. Dredge Stinkweed. Dredge Stinkweed. And Dredge Stinkweed. Quadra Creeping Chill, alright. Opponent gets drained for 12. And we're going to mill ourselves for 2 as well. Okay, pass to the end step. That's all of our Creeping Chills gone, though. Okay, opponent scries on their upkeep. Put a card on the bottom, so they didn't find what they were looking for. Scavenger Grounds. Scavenger Grounds does not kill us. Yeah, they can see. I also forgot that they play Grave Hate on a land in the form of Scavenger Grounds. Cool. Okay. Blast Zone coming in for a basic mountain. It's possible we want Lightning Axe because it will kill Reality Smasher, it will kill Thought-Knot Seer and such, but like we need to be able to answer their artifacts, and we should be able to swing past their creatures because we should be going wide faster than they can play creatures. Being able to answer something like Ensnaring Bridge is way more important than being able to answer their 4/4s and 5/5s. Yeah, got a mulligan. Okay, this is not a bad start. It's not amazing because we don't have a dredger, but I'm gonna go down one lower. Okay, having an opening Nature's Claim is also good. Put 2 cards back. I'm gonna put back Forgotten Cave, and I think the Ox, honestly. We want to draw green mana, and we want to draw a dredger. When it starts Urza's Tower, Expedition Map. We draw Creeping Chill, so Blood Crypt tapped. Pass the turn. And they have a Relic now. Okay, Copperline Gorge is good. They have double map, though. I think we just claim Relic. We could do it now to prevent them from drawing a card. Yeah, I'm actually going to do that. They only have 2 cards left in their hand. They mulliganed pretty low as well. Did they mulligan at all, actually? They mulliganed to 6. Yeah. So make us exile a non-existent card from our graveyard. Take out their Relic. Now if we could just top deck a Dredger. Opponent gets a Power Plant. Plays it. Dredger. Thoughtseize. You know what? Not a bad backup plan. Karn, Matter Reshaper. Why did it have to be redundant Karns? We'll take a Karn. We are going to blow Cathartic Reunion now. Just like wheel these away to draw 3 cards. Okay, we get a Loam, which is a Dredger, it's just a little late. Porter, that's our roommate. Opponent top decked the last Tron piece, and they get Tormod's Crypt. They play Tormod's Crypt, and play Matter Reshaper. We untap, draw Wooded Foothills, so play Bloodstained Mire, crack Bloodstained Mire, get a Stomping Ground tapped, and we're going to loam back Bloodstained Mire. The problem now is our opponent has an active Crypt and a Karn that we can't deal with right now. If they didn't have double Karn, we would have been in such a better spot. Oh, and they have scavenger grounds, so they will have grave hate again at instant speed. Yeah, I don't think we can win from this position. Our best draw would be an Ox, because we could just cast it out of hand. They get a Sundering Titan. That's game. That takes out 3 of our lands. Yup. And they get to leave up Scavenger Grounds activation. So, I'm just going to concede. I can't play that one out. Alright, so we got a treasure chest, 100 play points, and a qualifier point, because we did go 3 and 2. So let's go ahead and open our treasure chest and see what we got. We get 5 play points, Seraph of the Scales, and a Kazandu Tusk Collar. Alright, well, hope you guys enjoyed this content. Be on the lookout for Zendikar Rising content coming up soon, possibly later today. I can't make that promise, though, because I don't know when I'll have... I'll probably have recorded something in the morning, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to release it that day or the day after. Hopefully that day. It would be great. Yeah, if you like this content and you want to see more videos like it, please leave a like, drop a comment, subscribe to the channel if you're so inclined. You can also follow me on Twitch. You can catch me streaming live Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Mountain Time, 8 p.m. Eastern. I'm sorry about the fact that there was no stream this week. I might do a makeup stream over the weekend. We'll see. I'll try and announce it in advance if I do. But keep an eye out. Follow if you want to get notifications for when that happens, if that happens. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to getting my hands on some of the not Battle for Zendikar, Zendikar Rising cards. I've got 8 Crab, which is a mill deck I want to play. I've got Oops All Spells in Modern, and I've got Belcher that I want to play in Modern. So don't go away. Keep an eye out for this week's Mad Meta Magic if I can get a hold of the cards in time. Porter just pushed me to the side because he's a sweet brown little Labrador. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye!